think my eyebrows today look like Eddie Munster, but I'm going with that Halloween vibe. There's nothing wrong with it. Okay, let's start again. Hello and welcome back to another video. I realized that it's been quite a while since we last sat down to have, any sort of communication, so I thought this week we would pick it up talking about crochet pattern prices, because I don't know if you, like me, think that it's just magic, that there's a little sprinkle of dust and that little dust or wand waving or whatever decides what the price of the crochet pattern is going to be. But I certainly thought that way because there just seem to be so many options or so many differences in prices. They range from $3 to maybe up to $15, $20 because sometimes we're purchasing bookazines instead of just patterns. But hopefully at the end of this video you will have a better idea of the magic that actually goes into crochet pattern pricing, because there is magic and science behind it. So let's get into it. Now today is going to be more of a chatty video, so just feel free to grab a drink and let's sit down and discuss some business or, some crochet pattern prices. First off, I just wanted to tell you that I will be discussing this using the Vintage Waves sweater as an example. That is the sweater that I'm wearing, so that way we get to kind of talk about a finished item and the whole process behind creating this finished item. Hopefully that is of interest to you, and do let me know in the comments below what types of content you like for me to create for you guys, because definitely this is a channel about crochet and crochet community. I don't just want to blather nonsense, even though sometimes I do think I do that anyway. But yeah, before we just dive straight into that, I first want to take a moment to thank anyone who reached out asking about my family in Puerto Rico because of Fiona, and reached out talking to us or asking us if we were okay due to Hurricane Ian. And yes, if you follow me on Instagram, which Crochet Cakes by the way, then yeah, we're okay. We were very lucky. By the time Hurricane Ian got to us, it was more of a tropical storm, and our house was very, very lucky indeed as well. We never lost utilities, for which I was very grateful, not only because, of course, it's easier to manage a crisis when you have some comforts around you, but also because it would give us a chance to help any of our friends that didn't have electricity or that perhaps lost their water. So I was very, very thankful for that. So yes, thank you ever so much, and let's just dive right into the crochet pattern pricing process, because it is a process, and I will admit that it is not a process that I used to follow. I didn't know when I first started crochet designing how to actually price my crochet patterns. I just looked at what other people were doing and thought to price accordingly, and I honestly feel now, thinking back, that I didn't value my work, because that's one of the things that goes into crochet pattern pricing is value. So while I still believe that pattern design is a form of magic, there is a little bit of science behind the pattern pricing process, and we're gonna get into it. It's basically just quantifying your time, and time is abstract, yes, but how we spend it is really not. So take the Vintage Waves crochet sweater for example. We start, as with any project, the vintage crochet sweater started with an idea, and that idea had to be executed, because unlike other designers that I know, I need something concrete to base my design on. I just can't see a stitch and visualize the whole garment constructed in my head. I don't work that way. I'm not built that way. I actually need to crochet the piece up, and after I've crocheted the piece up, then I can just start grading for designs and just all the other parts that we will be discussing later in crochet pattern prices. So we start with that idea, and we should sit down with a little pen and paper and a timer and write down when we started working on that idea, when we stopped. So we should do that every single day, because that helps us quantify how much time actually went into the garment. So for this vintage waves crochet sweater that you're seeing, what I am wearing is actually the first iteration of that design. I did some changes after that, mainly with the crochet short rows, because I didn't like how they were sitting in the back of the neck. I felt that they were bunching a little bit, and I didn't really like that. So as I was saying, this is the first iteration, and from this one I made 2 more garments, testing sizes, but also testing to make sure that my design worked with as many different yarns as I wanted it to. And that, of course, takes time. So for this first iteration, I based off the grading, which took a lot of time, and the actual written pattern, I based it off the notes that I took for this sweater. And then once I completed that, let's say that just the design portion of this maybe was about 30 hours, just because I did frog this piece back 3 times, trying to get the increases to look the way I wanted them to, and then trying to get the single crochet V-stitch to match as well as it possibly could. And the reason I did all that work was because I wanted this design to be as easy as possible. It is not beginner unless you're an adventurous beginner, because there are increases and little things like that, but based off the Crochet Craft Yarn Council kind of ideas, it is an easy level pattern. And I wanted to keep it that way, but with a little bit of interest, which is why I delved into changing color every round, and also why I added the crochet short rows. So with all this in mind, this first iteration took about 30 hours to make. And then I sat down to write the pattern. And the pattern, I don't have my notes with me, but I'm pretty sure it took about 10 hours just to write, specifically the grading and how the increases and torso and sleeve separation would go. So right now we're already talking about 40 hours of work that we've written down. Next up, I always try to include a little form of video help in any of my paid for PDF patterns. So of course, I had to first off record that, and in order to record those I had to crochet another piece, and then I had to edit and do just the video content and do voiceovers. And bear in mind that I try to make all my patterns bilingual, so English and Spanish. So all this process that I'm talking about in terms of pattern writing and in terms of video editing and content creation goes in both languages. So the video itself took about 50 hours, just because you're trying to document each little step as best you can to make sure that people have a good visual understanding of what you're doing. And in addition to that, you want to take some pictures of your process, perhaps to put on your blog post. So that adds to photography, and that is not even talking about finished product photography. So all in all, it was about 50 hours of work, as I said. So if we take our 40 and we add 50, that's already 90 hours of work just creating the pattern. And of course, all this is different for every designer. Some people are speedier crocheters. Some people can visualize a whole garment and just have the pattern written up before they crochet a version of it. So all that has to be quantified. And I wasn't really happy. I wanted to do a little bit more. I wanted to really test that my pattern would be as versatile as possible with different yarns. So I tested another size and I crocheted up another piece. Now this one I didn't really charge for because it was more of a bless you, bless you. I think my husband's sneeze attack has passed, so I can't say I remember where we were, because honestly, after I sit in front of the camera and I just talk, I kind of like immediately erase what it was that I talked about. My brain just skips to the other thing. Like, there's about 10 different channels in my head right now, perhaps. Anyway, I think we had already talked about the third iteration and the 90 hours that were already spent as part of the garment design. So other than design, pattern writing, video editing, and process photography, another thing to consider when you're pricing your crochet, or in the price of the crochet pattern, is your product photography. So you've already completed all the other ones and you need to take pictures of your finished item. You need to take pictures that show the key points of your project and maybe show how to use this product or whatever it is that you're designing, where you would use it, how you would use it, all these little details that go into actual product photography, which is very different from just scenic photography or other types of photography, as I've learned. So we've done that, right? Then we need to edit, or perhaps we pay someone to edit, so we need to add that to the prices as well. Let's say product photography took 1 hour. That's 91 hours of work. Of course, we all know that most patterns are tech edited. Tech editing is a price that you need to add to your pattern because I pay someone else to do my tech edits and that person needs to be paid. So that price will also go in there. And perhaps you also are fortunate enough to be able to pay your testers. I know some people pay testers. I know some testers are just more than happy to work up patterns. They get great satisfaction from helping designers that way, and they don't seek monetary compensation. But I do know that there are designers out there that are very fortunate to be able to pay their testers, and their tech editors, and perhaps even a photographer. And maybe you couldn't model the piece yourself, so you had to pay someone else to model the piece. All these go into your pattern pricing considerations, or perhaps not yours, but into the decisions that this designer made. So let's say, to wrap it up, that between all these edits, meetings with your tech editor, all these things, it took about I don't know, 200 hours to put together this vintage waves crochet sweater. I just couldn't actually find the exact timetable where I had quantified all of this for me, but what we are going to do is basically we are going to also add on our Etsy fees and any little fees like that, shipping and processing fees, all these things. You might also want to add them to your pattern prices. So at the end of the day, when you've just added all these things together, you also have to be paid for your time. You also have to decide how much you're going to be charging for your time. This is very, very important because the time factor, what you are charging for your time, is ultimately what will determine the price that is you are putting what you're pricing your crochet patterns as. So with all these considerations in mind, I put my prices at $10 an hour. That's how much I charge for the work I do. If you've been keeping up with inflation news and all that, I saw an economist break down how this inflation has affected just the normal working person, and according to him and his calculations, $25 an hour is what would be needed just to live, as in to live. You're not going on vacation, you're not doing anything extra like eating out or anything, you're just paying your bills. That would be $25 an hour. And I can see it because when I used to work in an office, I got paid $19 an hour, and most of my paycheck would go to paying my student loans, paying my car, and doing groceries. I would barely have enough to save some money some months. Oh, also paying electricity, paying the internet, like all those utilities that are basic nowadays, because where would we be without the internet? So yes, I can see that inflation has basically raised the bar on what minimum wage should be. So anyway, you decide what you're going to be charging for your time, and lo and behold, you do all your multiplications and divisions and all of that. And if you need all this written down, the Pam Grice of the Crochetpreneur has a worksheet that you can download. I forgot what she called it, but I will link it in the description box below, and you can head over there and just kind of see all these numbers laid out and get a better understanding if you are a purchaser of patterns, and if you're interested in endeavoring into crochet design, then get a better understanding of what actually goes in terms of money into designing a crochet pattern. So all in all, when it comes to the numbers, add, subtract, multiply, divide, this Vintage Waves crochet sweater took, monetarily speaking, $2,235 to produce. Yeah. And that is with me doing my own modeling, with me taking my own photography, with me doing all my video edits. The only thing that I outsource is my tech editing. So yeah, and my testing. That's also outsourced. I do try to test like 3 sizes myself, and then I, pass the other ones on. But yeah, so all in all, it's as I said, 2,235. That's what I said, right? That's what it should be. I don't know why I remember that number so clearly, but yeah. So that is what it took to produce this Vintage Waves sweater pattern. Now, from here, you get to decide what you're going to price this. And I priced this pattern at $5.60. I wanted to keep it a good price for me to get paid for my time and my work, but also a price that could be affordable for anybody who was interested in. And of course, as is my usual practice, you can view a free version of the pattern on my blog. You just have to scroll through ads and you don't have access to video links, but it is there for you to view for free if purchasing a crochet pattern is not accessible to you. So these are just things that I want to keep in mind. I know that some designers do a pay what you can kind of scale, and they will price it at a base of maybe $4.50, which is like 50% off if you want to view it that way. But yeah, $5.60 is what I decided I would charge. And in order to get paid fully for this work, let's do some math. So we are going to take 2,235 and we're going to divide that by 5.60, which is what I decided I was going to charge for my pattern. And I have to sell 400 copies of the Vintage Waves sweater pattern to make back what it cost to produce the pattern. So in terms of economy, that would be breaking even. And anything over those 400 copies sold of this one single pattern, that would be a gain economy. I'm not an economist, but yeah, that would be income plus. Like you've covered your basics, and then you're making money. Yeah, but let's look at it that way. So it will be 400 copies sold of the Vintage Waves sweater pattern to cover my basics, and then anything above those 400 copies, that would be me making money. So I can already tell you that has not happened. In total, when I look at my Etsy sales, I have sold a total of, I've made a total of 400 sales. Bear in mind that when I started my Etsy store, I actually used to sell project bags. It wasn't actually just crochet patterns. So those 400 sales actually reflect more of my sewn items than they do my pattern sales. But I just wanted to give you guys an idea. Now, what mistakes have I made along the road of crochet pattern pricing? When I started designing, I was actually really afraid to charge for my patterns. I was really struggling with imposter syndrome, and I thought nobody's going to want to pay for anything that I design. It's just, why would they pay for this? There's so many other designs out there. Why would they pay for mine? And that is something that I struggled with. And of course, I was looking at other people that had blogs where they would share their free patterns, but also websites, Etsy pages where they would sell paid for PDFs. And one of the biggest one that comes to mind, and I think we're all familiar with her, is Sorella. So I was just kind of modeling my Etsy store after her, and her prices were $3. I think she's upped her prices just like most of us have had to do if you sell on Etsy, because Etsy fees are getting pricier. It's just a thing, they are getting pricier. So yeah, that was the reality behind why I started charging so little for my patterns, was that I didn't think people were going to be interested, and I was just kind of like throwing it out there of here's that if you want it kind of thing. But since then, I have learned the value of my time. I have learned all the work and dedication that goes into producing a crochet pattern, and definitely the magic behind crochet pattern pricing. Definitely learned that. So why haven't I adjusted the prices of my older patterns? Well, the key is that they are older patterns. So I thought it would be a nice balance of scales if I left my older designs at the prices that I had originally put them at, and it gives people a chance that haven't tried my patterns a chance to purchase something perhaps more affordable to them, or to have a little of an investment to get an idea of my designs, and if they would like to purchase the higher end designs, let's say that. And by higher end, I just mean they are priced at what I now know to be a fair price. So that is the magic behind crochet pattern prices. I hope that you now have a better understanding of all the thought science process behind pricing a crochet pattern, and that you found this helpful when deciding to purchase a crochet pattern, and that perhaps you have a better understanding of why you may want to purchase a crochet pattern. Right, so I know some of you probably want to learn more about the Vintage Waves crochet sweater. Well, in the link below, or in the description box below, you will find a link to my blog and website where you can view the Vintage Waves crochet sweater pattern and decide for yourself if you like it. As my newsletter subscribers know, I've started a new version of the Vintage Waves crochet sweater that it's very much an experiment. It is very much an experiment. And incidentally, if you want to find out some little hidden gems about the crochet life, updates on crochet lifestyle and things like that, then please subscribe to my newsletter. You can just go to crochetcakes.com, scroll a little bit. When you're about 50% scrolling, you'll get a pop-up that will have the subscribe form there. Yes, I'm still playing around with actually having a landing page for my subscription. I haven't been successful at that, but I am just trying to learn it so that you can have multiple ways of subscribing, or at least finding ways to subscribe to crochetcakes.com. Now, Vintage Waves crochet sweater, as I said, I tried to make it as easy as possible, but also as stash friendly as possible. The 3 versions I have started of this sweater are all from stash, and this newer version that my newsletter subscribers already know about and saw, I also started from stash. I promise I will talk about this version later on in the podcast. I like to give my newsletter subscribers little treats like that. You know, sometimes there's free patterns that I literally only make available for newsletter subscribers, and sometimes it's just like behind the scenes content, just little tidbits of my crochet life. And yeah, As you can see from the pictures, the Vintage Waves crochet sweater is very cropped, at least the versions I've crocheted, but you can of course just add length to it if you want. It is a top-down yoke design, so it's very easy to add length to the body of the sweater as well as your sleeves if you prefer a longer sleeve version for fall, as I have done with the sweater that I'm showing you right here. Please just admire the beautiful colors. I'm going to be writing a blog post this week on this version of the Vintage Waves crochet sweater, because even though it was not voted favorite on Instagram, it is the favorite of my heart. I just think I really like the colors I chose to represent fall in this sweater. And I of course have a summer version that I have started and have not finished. I'll probably finish it this spring perhaps. Oh, and let's not forget that it is Socktober. Yes, it is Socktober, and I am very excited. I've designed a pair of socks that I will be releasing soon for Socktober. I hope you like them. They were in collaboration with We Crochet, part of their independent design program. That is all I will say right now, because as far as I know, they have not released this pattern out into the world, so they get first dibs. So that is it for this video on crochet pattern pricing, and if you are interested in anything else, I know it's been quite a while since we've talked, then please leave a comment down below telling me what you'd be interested in, or maybe you're curious about what I've read. If enough people ask about it, I will put it in my newsletter, just because I don't know, none of them have been crochet related. They've all been romance related, so yes. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me here today. I hope that you found this video useful, entertaining, educational, and do let me know what type of content you like me to create, because I am certainly experimenting with things that aren't necessarily podcast format, and I will show them later. Look out for October, which we are already in, because I have something special planned in terms of vloggy, crafty content. Bye. Happy crafting, guys. Bye.